Hi, everybody. We're sorry it took a few minutes to get started. I was having some Zoom background issues. We have about 9 people. We're expecting about 17. Um, but I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Libraries Connecting Texas webinar, February edition. We are not going to have a webinar in March because of the window close. It's around the same, it's usually, this usually scheduled date is the same day as the filing window closed, and we're going to be busy filing applications. So we'll skip March and resume in April.
Caroline, I do want to give a quick shout out to one of our brand new libraries as of yesterday. Winters Public Library is on today. Welcome,
Oh,
Susan.
welcome, welcome. I'm Caroline Wolf, and we have Brandy and Jenny and Kyle also on. I'm not sure if Ashley is coming or not, but we'll get started anyway. So welcome, and I think we're ready to start to the next slide. I'm going to give a little bit of a summary about LCT, and then Kyle and Brandy are going to talk about filing the Form 471 and other deadlines, and then Jenny's going to talk about some new programs that maybe with the FCC is about to make some decisions on how that's going to maybe affect libraries. I think one way it will affect libraries is librarians may want to let people know about it because it's about connecting remotely to school. So there are a lot of people who have not been able to connect because they're in rural areas, and the FCC wants to do something about that. I've changed up the slides a little bit, or this slide a little bit. Instead of saying summary of funding, I'm talking a little bit about the applications, because the filing window is now a month away from closing, and we have filed 50 applications. That's 42% of the applications have been filed for LCT libraries, which is a really good number, almost half, and we've got a month left. So if you haven't filed your Form 471 and you have a multi-year contract from a previous year, or you're finished with your procurement, hopefully you'll be prioritizing that soon so that you can start getting your applications reviewed. In fact, many of the applications that were submitted are already ready to be funded. So they'll probably be funded in the first wave, which we're expecting probably in April or so. Also, I want to remind you that if you filed an application in 2019, today is the invoice deadline. The FCC extended the invoice deadline, which was originally October 28th. The FCC extended it 120 days, which is today is the deadline. If you have not filed your bears, make sure that you have submitted an extension request. If you are unsure if you have invoiced for your discounts from 2019, then you need to make sure that just verify that whether or not that the discounts have been received by your library. Even if you are thinking that you're using the SPI method, just double check your bills and make sure that your service provider has been invoicing your bills and things like that. So we had $1.4 million that was funded to LCT libraries in 2020. Once the applications for 21 start being funded, I'll start reporting about that and to give you a little bit of a comparison of how things are in 2020, 21 and compared to 2020. $4.8 million has been funded to LCT libraries from 2018 to 2020. So we're expecting, at least another $1 million to be added to that this year. And $2.5 million of $3.9 million in discounts has been dispersed to LCT libraries since 2018. So now I'll pass it along to Brandy and Kyle about preparing the Form 471.
So we are currently in the Form 471 window, and that started on January 15th. That is still going on for one more month out from today, and that is a total of 4 weeks. So in 28 days, we reach the end of that window on March 25th to file a Form 471. This means that if you have not filed a Form 470 yet, and you still need to, today is the last day to do so within the window. So make sure that that is taken care of if you still need to file a Form 470. And we'd recommend before you go into file the Form 471, make sure that you're using the Google Chrome web browser if you can, because the E-Rate Productivity Center portal does have certain issues that you may run into using Firefox or Internet Explorer or some other web browser. Google Chrome will often work best, but if you are running into issues with signing in, let us know. It may also be the case that you have to set up multi-factor authentication, MFA, and that is a process they implemented last year to increase security for login. So that is going to require you to do an initial setup, and then each time you sign in, there is a verification code that you'll receive via email to log in. And that's where the multi-factor comes in. It's the password and then also the verification code. So if you run into any issues, especially in the next few weeks with logging in, let us know. For filing the Form 471, if you filed a Form 471 for this funding year, for funding year 2021, and that should be something that you have either resolved already or are going to file today, you are going to, in order to file the Form 471, you are going to need a copy of the signed contract or agreement with the service provider that won the bid and that you either send an award letter to or have a signed contract with. You're going to need that in order to reference the award date of the contract and the bandwidth in addition to the term length. And keep an eye out for any extensions you may have on that contract as well, since that'll be information that you'll need in creating the contract record in E-Rate Productivity Portal. You'll also want a recent bill as sort of a approximate reference for the cost for your current service, especially if the service under the new contract you have is going to be the same service you're receiving now. You should be referencing the new contract and the pricing on that in a best case scenario, though. If you have any questions, do let us know. Now, if you are filing a Form 471 and you did not file a new Form 470 this year, then in order to file the Form 471, these will be the two documents that you need to have on hand to reference the information off of when you create the Form 471. And that is going to be a copy of a recent bill that details the charges for your internet access service in addition to any taxes or fees that may apply. I know some organizations are tax exempt, so if your organization is tax exempt, then you are going to be at least looking for the internet access fees and charges there. Additionally, you're going to need a Form 471, a copy of your Form 471 from last year, because you'll be able to reference much of the same information from that previous year this year as well. And then proceeding to next steps after you certify the Form 471, just keep an eye out for any program integrity assurance review inquiries that you may receive. You won't always receive one of these questions, but if you do, you should get a notification at your email address from USAC. And typically these are questions that are asking for verification of the information you entered on the Form 471. If you do receive one of these, please let us know and we can help you draft an appropriate response. If you don't receive one, you don't need to take any action for this portion of the process. I'll hand it off to Brandy to address other 471 items.
Thank you, Kyle. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Come File With Us recorded sessions that the LCT team has done. The first one is for filers that have or will sign a new contract after their allowable contract date on their Form 470. So that would have been a 470 that we filed this year or at the end of last year. The second link is for filers that have multi-year agreements from a previous funding year. These videos are going to be very helpful when it comes to filing your Form 471, but we are also available to help create or review your form if needed. Next slide, Jenny.
Is that better? Yeah, okay, sorry y'all. Okay, next we're going to talk about 471 action items. If you are working through the form yourself, once you've completed it, or if you get to a spot and you're stuck, you can click on the Save and Share button. You should notify somebody on the LCT team that you have that form ready to be reviewed, and we'll be happy to do that for you. We sometimes need to make modifications, or if we need clarification on something, we'll reach out. And once we're done with that review, we will send it to you for certification. And you will be notified via email when this takes place. Typically, the review turnaround is going to be 24 to 48 hours. And having an LCT team member review this for you is only going to set you up for success. It'll avoid any unnecessary route corrections or potential funding issues in the future. So we have 13 libraries on our list that still do not have an invoicing mode set on at least one of their funding requests from 2019. If you are receiving discounted billing from your service provider, they will need to file a service provider invoice, also known as a SPI. They'll file that form with USAC. Now, if you pay 100% of your charges on your invoice, you're going to need to complete the Billed Entity Applicant Reimbursement Form, also known as the BEAR. The invoicing deadline, as Caroline said earlier, is actually today for those recurring services. So at this point, it is absolutely necessary for you to file an invoice deadline extension in Epic if you have not been reimbursed from USAC already. So this is the steps. This is how we file the invoice extension. This process only takes a few minutes, and you'll log into Epic, and from your library's landing page, you'll click on your library name under the USAC logo. This will take you to your Epic profile, where you will click on the Related Actions button on the far right side of the screen. You'll scroll straight to the bottom of the list where you'll find Invoice Deadline Date Extension Request. You'll click on that, and then it'll come up with a page where you're going to enter the funding request number to check the eligibility. If you have multiple FRNs for 2019, you can separate those with a comma, and it'll pull them all up at one time. You'll verify that the funding request invoice deadline can be extended, and then you will submit. When you're going through these steps, you can tell if the FRN has already been extended. After clicking on check eligibility, you'll see a column that says current invoice deadline date. If this date is June 25th of 2021, then your FRN has already been extended. This would happen in cases where your service provider, maybe it's SPI billing, they have access to go in and extend that deadline as well. Or maybe the LCT team member that you work with has done that for you. If you have questions or have doubt about whether that's been extended or not, feel free to reach out to a team member and we're here to help you. And I'm going to pass it on to Jenny.
Thank you, Brandy. Hello, everyone. So as Caroline mentioned earlier, there's some additional new funding opportunities for E-rate applicants and for families, community members with children who are currently in remote learning situations. So the first one is we just really want to bring awareness to these programs to you as a library who may not be able to partake or benefit directly from these opportunities, but you can bring awareness to your school districts, your surrounding school districts, and your families and patrons. So we just wanted to make you aware of these opportunities. So the first one is called the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. And it's one of the latest COVID stimulus legislation bills. And it's going to include $3.2 billion in funds to help subsidize remote devices and home internet access for your community members. So for eligible households, the FCC is willing to reimburse service providers up to $50 a month for internet access and $100 per household for devices. So a huge opportunity for these eligible households. And again, your role in this could just be awareness to your community members and your patrons that come into the library. The funding is available for fiscal year 2021, but it will remain available until it's expended. So it's a great opportunity. I have provided a link here for the FCC public notice on this EBB program. Also, another funding opportunity is remote learning and E-rate funding support. So, you know, a lot of our students across the country are, you know, taking classes remotely from home. And this is a petition that was filed by Shelby, or the Schools, Health, and Libraries Broadband Coalition. You guys may have heard about Shelby. They have filed a petition with the FCC, among many other stakeholders, to ask the FCC to expedite ruling and provide waivers to allow off-campus use of E-rate funded services. So this is really new, uncharted waters for us. E-rate has always been, has only funded on-campus use. And so what Shelby and others are asking for is that the FCC make some accommodations for this remote and learning environment that we're in. Specifically, they're asking for the FCC to clarify off-campus use to be E-rate eligible and to serve an educational purpose. They also are asking for applicants to not have to cost allocate services to the home or off-campus use. And they're also asking for an additional filing window. So this very well could happen. In fact, Caroline may know more, but I have heard that we may have a second filing window just for this. So this is a huge opportunity for school districts and for school districts to apply for additional funds for remote learning for 2020 and for 2021. It will be retroactive. So huge opportunity there as well. And the implementation schedule for both programs is here. All of the initial comment and reply comment periods have passed, but we're looking at a target date for the FCC rules on EBB to be March 8th. So that is coming up pretty quickly. That will be here before we know it. And be keeping your eyes out on this stuff. We'll be sure to send out information as well. But if you have any of your area school districts or patrons or want just to know more about it, let us know and we can give you some more details on it. And I'm going to pass it back over to Caroline.
Thanks, Jenny. So I'm looking at a report. It looks like the only 2 libraries that are on this report that still need to extend their deadline to invoice are Onalaska and Dustin Michael Sakula. Both of these funding requests are for basic maintenance of internal connections. So it's possible that you didn't use those services, and in that case, you don't need to worry about it, and you may want to return the money. And if that's the case, you can reach out to us, and we can help you with that. If you are planning on invoicing for those services, you should extend the deadline. I guess that's it. If you have not filed your Form 471, please prioritize that. We have one library that still needs to respond to a PIA inquiry, and that's Benbrook. Everybody else, I think that the majority of the applications that have been filed are now application waive ready, and that means that it sounds like the applications for LCT libraries are becoming more and more correct and having fewer questions. And so kudos to all of you for listening and following the instructions and doing what you need to do to get those Forms 471 submitted with the correct information. Again, if you haven't filed it, prioritize that. Let's get it done. Let's not wait till the last week. Of course, some of you may be waiting for the Form 470 deadline, and that's fine. Please don't try to rush and evaluate anything before your deadline. So if you have any questions, you can always send us an email at lct@eratecentral.com. We're going to be putting a copy of video for this webinar on our YouTube page, and we hope that you all got the information that you needed. And if you didn't, please do reach out and ask us questions. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.